Welcome back to the 2017 Block of the Month. This month we're going to concentrate on setting blocks with a twist. Last month I really had you hopping. You learned how to make bias tape, cover buttons, make a yo-yo flower, and a different technique for applique work. And you all did so well that I decided this month I'm going to take it easy on you. This month we're just going to work on setting blocks. So we need to start out with 4 plain squares. That's all you have to do. I know you can handle cutting 4 5-inch squares. Next we need 6 plain rectangles. So we need to cut 6 pieces of fabric 9.5 inches by 5 inches. I told you it was going to be easy. You have 10 squares done already. Now it's going to start looking like the 12th Day of Christmas song, because now we need 7 quarter square triangles, 10 flying geese, and are you ready for this one? Don't hate me. 64 miniature quarter square triangles. Yikes! Now they all go really quick. And no, you don't have to have all of them done next week. The small quarter square triangles you can work on throughout the series. So let's start working on those quarter square triangles. They're really pretty easy. Now for the method I'm going to teach you, you generally start with the size of your finished block, which in this case will be 9 inches. To that you add 1¼ inches, which gives you a total of 10¼ inches. You're not real comfortable with your exact 1/4 inch stitching width. Go ahead and make it 10 3/4 or 11 inches. We can always trim it down later. To make 7 quarter square triangles, you'll need to cut your blocks out of both your accent color and your background color. Each set of 2 blocks will make a set of 2. So in that case, we need to cut 4 of your accent and 4 of your background fabric. Using either your accent color or your background color, mark a diagonal line from corner to corner on your block. Speaking of marking, here's a little tip for you. I want you to look real close at the corner as I start to do the marking. Watch real close. See what's happening? Because we're working on the bias, it makes it really easy for that piece to want to scrunch in. If you start in the center instead and mark out towards each corner, you won't have that problem. So let's do that again. Lay your fabric out flat. Place your ruler so it's going from one corner to the other. Then you're going to take your marking pen and start from the center and mark out from each corner. Now we're going to take our 2 squares, one accent color and one background color, lay them down against each other, right sides together, and then we're going to pin them in place. Now if this were a smaller square, the pinning wouldn't be necessary. But this is a pretty big size square, so better safe than sorry. Our diagonal line is drawn down the center of the square, and we're going to stitch on each side. Let's go to the machine. Set your machine to stitch on each side of the drawn line 1/4 inch away. this is stitched, let's go to the cutting mat. We're now ready to cut that block in half right on the original marked line. And when we do that and we open it up, you'll see we have two very large half square triangles. We're not done yet because remember we're making quarter square triangles. Before we press these sections open, we're going to do a little preventive maintenance in that we're going to starch the pieces, and that will help to prevent the bias from stretching as we press it. So we'll press on both sides, setting in the stitches and also setting in the spray starch. And we want to press this to the dark side. A little tip when you're trying to remember how to lay your fabric when you're pressing to the dark side, have the dark side of your fabric facing up. Now just flip it over and press your iron against the seam line. That automatically guarantees your seam is pressed towards the dark side. Continue pressing the rest of your blocks in the same manner. Using 4 of the half square triangles, mark a diagonal line from corner to corner as shown. Now take 2 of your half square triangles and put them together, right sides together, with dark matching light and light matching dark so they're opposites. We're going to make sure that we're meeting on the center seam line. And once we've got all that lined up, we'll pin that in place and begin to stitch. A way to double check is to put a pin right on the seam line stitching through all layers, and if they line up, you're good to go. Just like we did before, we're going to set our machine to stitch 1/4 of an inch away from the drawn line. We're going to stitch down the one side and then come around and stitch the other side. When we go over this seam line, that's just snugging those seams that we had pinned together very tightly so that you'll come up with a really nice joinery. Now we're coming down the other side, and this block, or should I say 2 blocks, is almost done because remember we're getting 2 quarter square triangles out of this one set. Once again, we're going to cut on the drawn diagonal line, and when we open this up, we now have a perfect quarter square triangle. Oh, no, we have 2. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? The smaller quarter square triangles are done exactly the same way, except you'll be starting with a 5-inch square of each fabric. Now, let's work on those flying geese. The flying geese are made in a similar manner as the half square and quarter square triangles are. There's a slight difference. The accent color is the color you want to use for your large square, and your background fabric is what you want to use for your smaller squares. Ask me how I know that. Yep, I switched them around, and guess what? It didn't work. So learn from my mistakes. As before, you're going to draw diagonal lines on the background fabric squares, or the smaller ones, and then you're going to pin them like shown onto your larger accent color square. Notice how they overlap in the center. Once again, you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch away from the diagonal line on both sides. Back over at the cutting table, once again, we'll cut on the line that we marked on the blocks. And this time when we open it up, it looks really kind of strange. It almost looks like maybe a stealth fighter jet or something. Certainly doesn't look anything like a flying geese. But we'll get there. Once again, we are going to take this strange looking unit and place another 5-inch square on the accent color so that the diagonal line goes from the corner to the place where the two background fabrics meet in the center. There seems to be a theme developing here. We've stitched on both sides of the diagonal line, cut on the diagonal line, and remember we had 2 of these strange pieces and 2 of the small blocks left, so we put them together. So we're going to cut both of them on the diagonal line. And now this time, when we open these strange pieces up, look what we get. There's your perfect flying geese. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 flying geese from your 2 pieces of fabric. That's pretty neat. So we're going to call this a wrap. The only thing left to do is to square up your 1/4 square triangle blocks and your flying geese blocks and wait patiently until next month. See you then.